say welcome everyone to this event. It's a facilitation workshop, so the idea is to actually provide a space for facilitators who have engaged with the ADOPT program to have a space to ask questions, to prepare themselves, and to make sure that they have all the information that they need to make it a successful program. So today you're going to have Sarah Clark from ADAS talking a little bit. You're also going to have Christopher Till from Business Connect and Innovate UK. And we're here to answer any questions you might have. Just as I mentioned before, today's agenda, there's a little bit of welcome and housekeeping, which we've already covered, but it bears repeating. This event is going to be recorded in the presentation side of things, and then the questions are going to be not recorded at all, but we will compile the most important questions and answers and make them available to you for you to have a record or just access to the questions and answers. Today, we're going to give you a short reminder of what ADOPT is, the webinar goals. That's going to be on Sarah's. Then Chris is going to talk a little bit about Business Connect and about UK, do an introduction and how they explain a little bit how they connect and engage with ADOPT. And then we're going to be talking a little bit about the facilitator role in ADOPT, certain grant considerations that you should have, a few top tips, a little bit about the support hub, and most importantly, we hope that the bulk of it is going to be a Q&A where you're very welcome to either ask your questions on the chat, which you can start using right away as a place to put your questions, or later on, you can just raise your hand and we'll let you share your questions. Your questions can be super specific to ADOPT or about specific projects. Please feel free to ask however niche or however general question you have. Sarah, I'll leave the floor first to you, and then we'll pass to Chris. Oh, well, right. And the next steps and follow up at the end.
Great. Thanks very much, Anna. And welcome everybody to this facilitation webinar. It's really great to see so many of you here. I know we've got quite a wide range of experiences about ADOPT here today. So apologies to those of you who might be very, very familiar with ADOPT. I'm just going to take a step back and give a little bit of an introduction about ADOPT. Just for those of you who may be slightly less familiar. So ADOPT is a new fund, relatively new. It started a year ago, nearly, and it stands for Accelerating the Development of Practices and Technologies. And it's a really new way of working. So it's really, really farmer focused. So it's really about addressing challenges for farmers, growers and foresters that they are experiencing on their farms and holdings. And it's trying to make sure that we address some of those challenges using some funding, and also make sure that the messages from those projects are really widely disseminated and adopted to make sure that we can have a really big impact on the farming community as a whole. So as I said, it's about farmers, growers and foresters. There's a really, really wide scope, and it's a very different way of working. It's part of the Farming Innovation Programme, which is funded by DEFRA and administered by Innovate UK. But unlike other Farming Innovation Programme projects, there is some more wraparound support for everybody who's involved in the projects, particularly farmers who may be less familiar with applying for this sort of funding. So the first part of that extra support is the support hub, which I will talk about a bit later during this meeting. And then the other extra bit of support is this facilitation part, which you have very kindly joined the community of facilitators and hopefully are getting some really good engagement with farmers and other organisations in Adopt. So talking about facilitators, I will pass over to Chris, who's going to talk a bit more in detail about Business Connect and their role.
Thank you, Sarah. That's a great introduction. Yeah, just load up my slides. If you're seeing that now, give me a thumbs up if you can.
Yep,
we do.
Thank you. Yeah, so morning, everyone. Sorry, afternoon, everyone. I'm Chris Till. I'm from Innovate UK Business Connect and Agri-Food team. And my colleague Simon and I, we are helping deliver on the project facilitated database aspect of the Adopt program. As Business Connect, our sort of role in this ecosystem is to connect innovators with new partners, new opportunities beyond existing thinking, to accelerate ambitious ideas into real world solutions. And this can be more true in the case of Adopt. So we're connecting with innovators, so your farmers who have fantastic ideas, with amazing project facilitators such as yourselves to deliver these real world on-farm solutions to a lot of problems. Now, this project facilitator base that we've been curating is currently got 300 people or 300 approved facilitators on it. And this is sort of a number that I'm going to put an asterisk around, although I haven't, because we're currently, and most of you know, undergoing a refresh. And this is an opportunity now. We've had, almost a year of people on the database to decide, are you still happy to be on the database? Do you have any details that you'd like to be updated? And also an opportunity for you to feedback and, offer some additional guidance. What we're really keen to happen is when people navigate this database, they're able to find you in the best way possible, identify your experience, and we want to make sure every introduction works best for both parties. If you are too busy, we've had a number of people get in touch with us that actually they currently don't have capacity to engage in any more projects, which A is amazing, and B, yeah, it's best not to spread yourselves too thin with these projects. We can temporarily remove you. So if this is a situation you find yourself in the future, as more rounds come out for Adopt, please just get in touch with us. Now, in terms of the database, we have tried to make it very, user friendly. So, for a person to be able to identify someone they'd like to work with, there are ways of filtering the database. This is an iterative thing as well. We're trying to make it even better, but at the moment, this is the state of the art for us, which is being able to focus in by region, sector, and subsector. So if someone's trying to identify a project facilitator based on soft fruits and horticulture, in this example in Yorkshire, it really chops that list down and gets them to where they need to be. Now, just briefly in terms of numbers, I'm not going to do death by stats or numbers, but basically I think we've got a reasonable spread. We've got quite a lot of representation: southwest, east of England, southeast, West Midlands, Yorkshire and Humber, and East Midlands. So these are large geographical areas, and we're thinking that the number of project facilitators in these regions reflects the size of those regions there. And also, interestingly, in terms of skills that we see our project facilitators having, knowledge exchange is fantastic. That's on top. That's one of those ubiquitous skills that we're expecting, everybody to have. And it's not really throwing up any surprises, as well as in terms of things like innovation, sustainability, facilitation, agroecological, regenerative, biodynamic, and organic farming systems. These are all sort of things that we sort of expected with the role as an Adopt project facilitator, which is really, really great to see. I won't go through this exhaustive list here, but if you fancy understanding more of this detail afterwards, please get in touch. Now, our other role as part of Business Connect in this piece is in not only to vet and approve facilitators, but also connect people, so clients, to facilitators. So what happens is people go onto that database and then click a request to be connected to a facilitator based off your blog, or you may already know you. So what this table here is shown, and clients assisted here basically means unique clients. So we've had multiple people come say, try to engage with a lot of project facilitators, but not quite fit, they haven't got capacity, or we would like to go in a slightly different direction. This is all fine, and we're happy to assist as many times as possible. But what the point of this graph is showing, and unfortunately the first round was a bit longer, so it does skew the results slightly, and round 6 is just ongoing now. So if you look to rounds 2 to 5, we've got the sort of, reasonably level interest. So it's not showing that we still had the first round we had a massive uptake and then it's all fizzled out. We're remaining what we think is quite static, or engaged is a better term for that, which is really fantastic to see. And Simon and I are still quite busy connecting people, get in touch with facilitators. So again, if you've got any suggestions and feedback for us, please do get in touch on how we can make this process fit for purpose for both yourselves and also the clients we're engaging with. And just the final thing to say is I'd love to do this as well for the skill set, and I will do shortly to find out what clients are looking for in facilitators in terms of skills. But one thing that we've noticed is, again, just coming to that piece where we've not seen a drop off. We've not really seen a region that's had a sudden interest. So there's not been a sudden reason for a spike or a drop off with engagement in this process with facilitators during the adopt program, which is really good to see. We want things static as possible, not static, engaged as possible throughout without seeing a drop off, basically what I'm trying to say with this. And finally, so our call to action. So we really are trying to help drive high quality applications in your networks, with round 6 being open now, and there's £30 million committed for 2026 and 2027. So the feedback for us, the good, the bad and the ugly, would be really beneficial. So we can, the bad may benefit from pivoting from adopt, starting again via research start and feasibility studies. And good may need additional R&D. So if you've got projects that, in the future you think this was a fantastic project, we'd love for it to continue, we can help identify pots of money to make that happen. And our role as Business Connect is there basically to help project facilitators who are awareness in their network of these fantastic projects, how to take them further on that journey, drive business growth, not just project growth. So anything we can do in terms of facilitator introductions or the facilitator database to help you drive those high quality applications, please do get in touch. There's an email address here, adoptfacilitator@iukbc.org.uk. Also, the same vein, if you I'm happy to share my email address as well, which in the chat, which also help you get connects. So yeah, please do get in touch. And thank you to Sarah and Anna for letting us BC talk today. So thank you.
Thanks, Chris. That was really interesting. At least I've not seen the numbers, and I'm quite impressed with the fact that it's been consistent and that so much engagement has come from it. So really interesting. I've seen a few questions on the chat, but I'm going to try to keep the suspense because most of the answers to those questions are actually in the presentation that we're going to do now. But before we actually go into that, I wondered if you would be so kind to actually, if this works, to answer this really short survey that we have here, because we have the opportunity of having 41 of you now here. And it would be interesting to know what sector you're working in before we get into the detail of what we're going to be talking today, which is the facilitator. So if you could please let us know what sector you're working in. It should have popped in your screens, whether you're livestock, whether you're arable, horticulture, agroforestry, net zero solutions, or other. Please let us know now. I can see it's quite even. A lot of livestock, a lot of arable, and then quite a few horticulture, agroforestry, net zero solutions, and others. So that's really interesting, really relevant information. And again, all the information that you're seeing today, that we're gathering today, all the links as well will be shared with you later on, so you can actually use this information. So thank you so much for that. If anybody's interested, you should have a thing on your chat that allows you to see the results. But again, otherwise we'll share them with you. And at the moment we have about 30% livestock, about 30% arable, 22 horticulture, and then a mix and match of other things. So really interesting. So now we're going into the heart of the practical side of things today. We're going to be talking about the facilitators. So while we're talking, please feel free to start putting your questions in the chat. That would be probably the best so that we can gather them afterwards. But as I mentioned before, we will leave some time for Q&A at the very end, and you'll be able to ask your questions directly as well if it's more comfortable to you. So the facilitator role in ADOPT is a very, very key role. All the projects are expected to have a facilitator. And the reason for that is that it was identified that farmers are time poor. These projects do require a lot of time, but more than time, even coordination. So making sure that there's someone in the whole project that's going to be focusing on making them a success is really relevant. The facilitator role in ADOPT is a little bit more specific than just a general facilitator, and it actually asks you to get involved at the very early stages of the process, so pre and application stage, by helping the partners in developing and writing and submitting the applications. So a facilitator would be expected to help not only fine-tune the idea, but actually fine-tune the application. And then also review and resubmit the application. If you applied once and for whatever reason, your application didn't go through or wasn't funded, you have a new opportunity to actually review it and help the farmer with that side of the things. But the facilitator is also very important in later stages once the project is live. And at that stage, there's two sides of this coordination that are really relevant. On the one hand, all the liaison with Innovate UK and the project managers. So Sarah, you're going to help me with the MSPs, please.
Monitoring service providers, monitoring officers.
I'm very sorry about that. I have this thing because I'm living in Scotland. I tend to think of parliamentary as not very useful. So yeah, that's sort of like managing that relationship and making sure that all the necessary reporting and documentation is actually delivered on time, but also that you're keeping them in the loop. But within the project itself, there's an expectation that you're going to help the project to stay on track. You're going to help them ensure internal communication and also external communication, and also ensuring that you can source the right expertise to make the project a success. We all know these projects move in very dynamic ways, and sometimes you need to bring people from the outside to ensure that it continues to flow. That would be part of your role. As I mentioned, internally, so you're supposed to be helping the farmers explore their ideas, and that can be a really challenging part of the whole process. So in our support hub, we have a few tools that might help you explore ideas in a more efficient way. You're also expected to help the farmers apply to ADOPT and help them shape their project, and also support them afterwards in implementing the project, keeping it on track, sourcing the expertise, and making sure that communications are effective and on time. We all know that in these projects, especially at the height of the moments when you're collecting data, things can get a little bit chaotic. You're expected to help them, the whole project, stay on track, gather the data, be able to continue working, even when things can get a little bit intense in the agricultural world. But there's also the other side of the equation, as we mentioned, and the importance of being a good sort of like node of communication with Innovate UK, making sure that you translate in a way the Innovate UK requirements on behalf of a group. We all know that probably the way that a farmer speaks is not necessarily the same way as a sort of like someone who's on government. It's a little bit that translating piece of understanding how the applications go, allowing farmers to understand the requirements and the why of the requirements, both during the application phase and during the project itself, during the life of the project. And then also preparing and managing the paperwork for Innovate UK, the periodic reports, but also the claims is something that the facilitator should at least be able to help the farmers with, ideally actually holding their hands through the whole process. And finally, coordinating the submission of the quarterly claims. That's really important. If you're having any doubts with all these things, that's why the ADOPT has a really interesting feature, which is the Innovation Support Hub, which is a free service. We're going to talk about it later on, but I just want to make sure that everybody knows that we're here to support in all these things as well. So although the facilitator is there to support the farmers, we're actually here to support the facilitators as well. Really relevant and associated with something that was being asked around how do you determine the daily rate for a facilitator or the overall expectation. It's really important to understand that the level of support required is going to be based on the farmer's needs. So there's no a flat rate or a flat way of thinking about it, because some farmers are quite comfortable doing these things themselves. Some need more support. So you need to basically assess at the very beginning of your whole process how much support the farmer is going to need. And that's going to be determinant to understand what's expected of your role, how much involvement, how much responsibility you're going to be having in the whole process. And that should be considered when exploring the facilitator's fee. So again, there's no specific requirement. There's no baseline fee or anything. It's something that the project itself needs to explore it based on how much or how little support they need. Really important, we've created a few ideas about how you can engage with farmers or with other partners, because I'm assuming that some of you might be interested in doing it, but have not explored it yet. So some of you might already know some fantastic farmers with great ideas. We highly recommend that you suggest exploring these ideas using the Adopt grant. It's a fantastic tool to make it happen. And again, really farmer-based. So that's very unique. There's definitely as well some people that might refer you to. So Chris here, for example, but also other farmers that might be interested in exploring ideas, other facilitators that might have already been approached and have no capacity. So do use those spaces. And also explore the project, make sure that you're in the project's facilitator database, one, because it's mandatory if you want to proceed with a project, but also very importantly, because it's a great way for farmers to actually reach you if they're looking for a facilitator. Really key, I think that was a question as well, whether facilitators, how many projects can they be involved in? You can be involved in as many or as few as you want. The important thing is that you consider all the responsibilities and all the expectations that you're going to have from each project, and factor in that and understand that you have the capacity to make it happen. So you can explore as many projects as you want. Just make sure that you have the capacity. For funding, super important. There's two ways or two areas that can fund facilitators in Adopt. One is a facilitator support grant, which is a flat fee of £250 that farmers can apply for to secure paying a facilitator in the early stages of a project. So it's in the pre-application stages. Please remember, this is a competitive grant. It's very likely to be funded if the application fulfills the basic requirements, but it is a competitive grant. So make sure that the application is actually in line with what is required. It must be led by a lead farmer, grower, or forester located in England that runs an established business. That's sort of like the absolute basic. They must be registered in the project's facilitator database. We might be saying things that sound pretty obvious, but sometimes people are expecting to be integrated later, for example, and still apply. So just make sure to remember that you already need to be in the facilitator database. If successful, the amount is going to be paid upon the submission of a full grant. So again, you need to follow through with the full grant to actually get this. And finally, it's not a prerequisite to apply for it, but it really helps, and it's one of the unique features of Adopt. But then, say you didn't apply for this, you still have a space in the full grant where the facilitator's fees need to be considered. So again, we're going to go really fast through them. We're going to repeat it, but it's just very important to remember that this is a competitive grant. So please keep that in mind. It's very important that if you're going to be part of a project, you need to be, your facilitator, the facilitator of the project needs to be already registered in the Directory of Facilitators. And again, Chris is here in case you have any questions about that process. The full application facilitator costs are not a separate amount like it was in the previous grant. In this case, it must be included in the project costs. The facilitators can be engaged in different ways. They can be engaged as a subcontractor or as a project partner. It's up to the project to decide how they want to do that. And it's very much something that needs to be decided by the consortium, as well as the fee. As we've mentioned before, that's something that the consortium needs to explore based on how much or how little they need. Finally, a few top tips, and then we'll be almost over with this part and you'll be able to ask your questions. Some top tips that, again, sometimes sound a little bit obvious, but it's really relevant and important that they are obvious in the application. You have to make sure when filling an application that the main farmer, grower, or forester, the operations are located in England. Please make sure that that's the case. Remember that you can have a partner that is not located in England, but the main farmer, grower, forester needs to be in England. You have to include at least another farmer. You need to include at least one registered facilitator. Everything else is optional. Remember that the budget needs to add up to at least 50,000 to 100,000 pounds of the project costs overall. I am going to highlight this again. It's the project costs overall. The percentage that's going to be funded by Adopt is going to be determined by whether you're a farmer, you're a researcher in the project, but the project itself needs to be within that level of costs. You need to aim to, an important aspect to consider is aim for the best funding round for the project plan and goals. If you're going to be doing 2 seasons, maybe you have a particular time of the year when a round is better suited to ensure that you can do 2 seasons. Again, something that we can help with in the support hub. Make very clear what's the opportunity or challenge that you're exploring. Try to focus on just one. Focus on one very clear thing that you want to make sure that you can explore and make the most of. Explain very clearly how it helps you mitigate risk. And also make it super clear how it actually benefits others. So as long as you're already doing this, remember dissemination is a key part of Adopt. So ensuring that it benefits others in the wider community is a really important point. Finally, you're probably tired of listening to this, but remember, it's really important. It's a competitive grant. So while you're planning and writing it, remember to make it very obvious why your proposal is interesting. And why is it relevant to the wider audiences? Be proactive in bringing people together and building a consortium that can implement the plan. You can have a great idea, but if it's not clear in the application how it can be implemented, it's going to be less obvious why it needs to be funded. And also remember that dissemination doesn't mean just doing articles, doesn't mean just writing. It could be articles, it could be visits, it could be videos, it could be webinars. Dissemination can have a wide array of things. So in the application, when it comes to dissemination, make sure that you highlight how you're going to share your information. And very, very importantly, make sure that you showcase a robust trial plan. And the questions that you need to answer is who's going to be involved and why? What do they bring to the table? What will happen and when? What are you going to be testing and how you're going to make it happen? And how the farmers will be involved. Remember that this is farmer-led. That's the key. So make sure that that's very clear. And again, there's going to be more ideas around how you can make a good case by exploring some of our resources. This is one of them. So make sure that you highlight the collaboration side in your application. That's super, super important. Make sure that you make simple comparisons, do a simple plan and showcase how it's relevant, control variation, control replication, and make sure that you highlight assessments. These are just a few ideas of how you can make sure that you're making the case for your field trial and making sure that if you can explain all these things in a simple way, that actually takes you a long way in why your project is viable and why your project is implementable, which is really, really important. And we've seen something that really helps projects get over that final line. Sarah, do you want to take over for talking a little bit about the hub?
Yeah, great. Thank you, Anna. That's really useful. So I'm just going to talk a bit about the support hub. So I spoke earlier about the unique things that made Adopt a bit different from previous funding. And we've already spoken a lot about the facilitation role. And I just want to highlight the support hub and what we can help you with and who is involved and what are the next steps. So if you can click on Anna to the next point, great. So the support hub is free to everybody, and it is really designed to help everybody involved in Adopt. That may be facilitators, it may be lead farmers, it may be partner farmers, it may be other organisations who are involved in the process. So we're here all the time to make sure that you're fully supported right from early ideas through the application process. And if you're successful with funding, then getting the project set up, making sure that the trials and tryouts that you're working on make sense and are really useful for the project, and then helping with messaging from the projects. We know a lot of people are really excited about the work that they're doing on their farms and in terms of the Adopt projects. So we really want to help you capture that excitement and enthusiasm and disseminate it as widely as possible. We can do that in lots of different ways, right from the beginning when the projects have started. So we've engaged with quite a few facilitators and projects already on the initial successful projects. But if you've got a successful project and you haven't spoken to us yet, please come and talk to us, because we're really here to help you throughout the process and make the most of all your results. If you go to the next slide, Anna. So the support hub is made up of a consortium of different organisations. So it's led by ADAS, where I'm from. We're working with the UK Agritech Centre, who are leading the promotion and engagement side of things and knowledge sharing. And Anna is from Innovative Farmers, which is part of the Soil Association, and they've got a really wealth of experience from their field labs and working with on-farm trials. If you click again, Anna. So the best way to start, if you haven't already been, please go to our website, because we've got a huge amount of different resources that can really help you and the farmers and other organisations that you're working with to develop your idea and supporting throughout the projects. So there's a QR code there. We have our telephone number too, as well as our email address, and we're available every day, so please do get in touch. So in case you're not familiar with our website, I just thought I'd give you a little bit of a demo. So this is our front page, where we have some video about Adopt. We've got some FAQs which would be useful for you, including facilitation. We've got a support page where we have lots of different questions for different sets of people, including facilitators, and information we can give you there. Anna's already spoken about some of the connections that we can make. So a lot of people are putting their connections on there, and you can do the same to try and connect yourself with other relevant people. We have guidance materials, which Anna again has mentioned, everything from setting up a project, thinking about applications and dissemination. We also have case studies, which is based around previous projects on from innovative farmers and others, but our really exciting new pages about the live projects, where we've got lots of information about all the projects that have been funded in the first couple of rounds. And if you click on these, you'll find some information about the projects. Sometimes we have videos from interviews with the growers who are involved, and we're really keen to help you develop these. We also have some events listed, and you can inquire now through our inquiry form there, or as I said before, through the email address or the website. So I just want to, sorry, I've said it lots of times, but please do get in touch, and we're really keen to help support you, especially getting all your messages out there the best way possible. Thank you. I'll pass back to you, Anna.
Thank you so much, Sarah.